Marketing Kitchen TV Q&A Live.
Welcome, marketing chefs. I've got something truly special cooking in our Omni-Channel oven today.
Marketing Kitchen TV Q&A Live, Chapter 1.
Up next in the Marketing Kitchen. Welcome to the kitchen, the Marketing Kitchen. Hi, I'm Ron Vining, your host of Marketing Kitchen TV.
Welcome to @MarketingKitchen TV Q&A Live. All you need to do is go to @MarketingKitchen TV on Twitter, use the hashtag Q&A, and I will answer your questions here.
Welcome to Marketing Kitchen TV Q&A Live. This is the first of 6 or more episodes that I'll be recording over the next couple of days and releasing over the next couple of weeks in our fall 2020 lineup. It's been a long time since I've recorded a Q&A episode, as well as it's been a long time since I've recorded an episode altogether. I've pretty much been staying off of YouTube in terms of me speaking. I, of course, consume a lot of YouTube content, and I love all the content that's out there by other content creators. I think they do a fantastic job. I just don't seem to have it in me lately. I don't know if it's COVID, I don't know if it's the elections, I don't know what it is, but I'm spending so much time online that the last thing that I feel like doing is spending more time recording myself talking. But you guys have been asking me a lot of great questions on @MarketingKitchen TV Q&A. So since you've been asking questions there, or actually I have it up at the top frame there, but you guys have been asking so many great questions, or is it in the top over there? Anyhow, that I need to get on here and I need to record some answers because I need to share with you my background, my expertise, just my thoughts on what it is that others have been working on in the space and some changes that have happened. Because obviously as we have shifted online due to the environment, then I saw a great meme actually, and it said, what has driven digital transformation in your company or your team or your life? And so it gave, your CMO, your CIO, your CTO, customers, vendors, whatever. Anyway, none of those were even, they barely registered above 10%. The overwhelming reason why a company had transformed to go digital was obviously because of the fact of the lockdowns. So that is what has been the main driver of digital transformation. And it's amazing to me because I've been leading in digital transformation going all the way back to 1996 when I built my first website and sort of became, I wouldn't say a guru, but I was one of the first people to do a lot of things on the internet. Unfortunately, I was one of the first people to do a lot of things for other people on the internet, and I made them successful, whereas building a platform for myself. So whereas that goes into time for to give a little bit of a plug, I am so excited, I am really so excited that my digital platform called AppFlix, so appflix.com, I'm so excited that AppFlix will be launching before the end of November. Finally, after a year. A dummy website has been up for a year, but finally a robust and live and working version of the site will be online and available for users before the end of this month. So that's November 2020. So I'm quite excited about that. Okay, let me get to the very first question that we have here, and that question is by Paige. And I decided to do something different this time. There's so many questions on the thread that I asked users to flag either their own questions or those of others, explaining to me why we should take a look at it. And I sort of diverted off of, I just figured we'd curate it off of Marketing Kitchen TV, just asking you to go to @RonaldVining, because @RonVining was already taken back in 2009 when I signed up, and go to @RonaldVining and do a different hashtag, which is just MKT for Marketing Q, and then I would, that would sort of curate or collate or put together anyway questions, and I'd answer them here. So this is the first of those episodes. I'm not sure how long it'll take me to answer them. My goal, or my objective anyway, is to cover all of these curated questions that you've highlighted for me, and then perhaps jump back into Marketing Kitchen TV. So that's at Marketing Kitchen TV, hashtag Q&A. And this is a Marketing Kitchen TV Q&A live episode, and then I'm answering all of your questions here. When I say live, this is actually recorded, but I'm answering them without previewing what's been asked. So I've certainly retweeted and liked them, but I've not read them, and I've not gone back through them. So this is sort of me answering off the top of my head your questions, okay? Utilizing what my own experience, utilizing resources that I currently have been reading or things that I've been watching, etc., to synthesize and put together a contemporary answer to your particular question. All right, okay. So Paige says, I think this is a great question to address given the fact that the internet has become vital to daily life. Those without internet access have become massively burdened during social distancing. Okay, all right, let's take a look and see what the question is that Paige has highlighted. And Paige has highlighted her own question here, so let's take a look at that. Digital innovation has caused the internet to vastly expand and develop over time. What digital innovations are being developed to help eliminate the disparity between those with internet access and those without? Okay, Paige, thank you for that opening salvo. So let me respond to that. We'd be hard pressed actually to find locations on the planet now that are not served by the internet. The only disparity that can be found, and I'm being serious when I say that, I have during the course of my work and travels been to developing countries. I've been to some of the best cities or most developed countries on the planet as well. So I've seen that disparity. I've surfed the internet in both of those situations. So I've seen the disparity of that service as well. So it's really not about who has internet and who doesn't, because just about every society has it now on the planet. It's about how fast that is. And fast is really relative. So certainly we're in the middle of a 5G, what's going to be called a super cycle, where some of the most developed nations move from 4G to 5G. But did you really suffer back when the internet was at 3G? And no, not so much, because sometimes today, no matter where depending on where you're at, you're dropped down or scaled back down, or there's been throttling, which has brought you to a slower speed. So Paige, to answer your question about whether or not there's a disparity of who has internet or not, it's really the discussion of what speed does somebody have in their ability to access the internet, and what technologies are being developed to eliminate this. Well, there's certainly, I think about even in your own home, you can certainly get boosters. So and there's all different names for that, but you can certainly either plug into your. Got some background noise there. I'll let this pass. So there's a number of different technologies in your own home that can boost your Wi-Fi signal, correct? And so oftentimes we make use of those to increase our bandwidth speed. At the same level, things of this nature are happening across the globe. There are more remote areas of the planet where Facebook and Google are using air balloons and to boost the signal in mountainous regions or regions where it's not feasible to lay cable. The use of internet over the satellite technology is also being deployed. So there's a number of different technologies that are helping that. Certainly drones can further expand that. But again, the air balloon, I think, example serves in that particular capacity. So with 5G, and 5G, basically, there's 3 different bands to that too. So there's sort of, if you think about it, there'd be think about a massive antenna on the top of a skyscraper, which would be broadcasting the signal out, similar to how your ABC, CBS, NBC TV would be. Then you've got more of a mid-band, and then you've got a more localized bandwidth. So there's 3 different layers to 5G to enhance one's ability to reach it based upon whether or not they're in a dense city environment in the suburbs, which would be less, to being in a rural country. So yeah, anyway, there's a lot of aspects in that. I'm not an expert in the space. This is just something that I've read that has given me a bit of familiarity, I guess, on that. All right, thank you very much for that question, Paige, and I hope you found my answer of use. Okay, going back to the next question. All right, let's go on to our second question. Thank you, Paige. And our second question here, I think this is a good question considering that brands are continuously growing their content on social media. Will ads get overwhelming for consumers, or will ads get more creative and entertaining? That's a good question. So is that the question here that Danielle asked? Yes. Will social media get overwhelming for customers that are always targeted with ads from companies? And I guess then the question was about will they be more creative or not? Well, even pre-pandemic, yeah, there was becoming a saturation point on social media, and it's just become overwhelming to answer your question. So yeah, I totally think that social media has become overwhelmed with ads. I think about how Instagram used to be a joy to browse through and look at pictures, and now there's so many, whether it's a suggested feed to look at, whether it's some promotion, whether it's in the form of a video, or it's an image, or it's just outright an advert. Yeah, it gets a bit overwhelming. I think about YouTube. I watch a lot of content on YouTube, and the ads are now so pervasive. They're even ads that are, even profiles rather, or channels that aren't monetized. So for example, my YouTube channel is not monetized, but yet there are now ads appearing before and after them. You can tell when a channel is monetized, by the way, because there will be ads during. Now, some content producers don't allow that, but typically those that are seeking to make money and those that are actually on YouTube full-time as a business, that they need to. But if you don't see ads in the middle of a video, then it's most likely that that channel is not monetized. But yeah, so anyway, to answer the question, yes, social media will become overwhelmed with ads, which will become frustrating for customers. I think that you will see, though, content marketers, content creators, companies looking to make sure that their ads are not seen as annoying and not overlooked, that just become part of the noise in the landscape. I think you'll see them attempt to go with more creative visuals, more creative storytelling, utilize celebrities, utilize tactics that will make them seem more part of the experience. So there are some YouTube ads, for example, that lately I found to be entertaining, whether they've been almost like a music video, dance choreography, utilizing storytelling. So as long as and here's the key, if the advertisement is related to the content that I'm consuming, or based on my profile history, things that I like, then I'm more likely to watch it. If it is disruptive, annoying, and not part of that ecosystem or not part of the theme of what I'm looking to do, then I will find it annoying, and as soon as I can skip it, I will. Most definitely. I think that I think platforms need to be careful with this, but I would recommend it. If you could actually rate the ads that you see, we would actually see better ads. There would obviously be people who would always dislike an ad, but I think that companies would benefit actually if they could get feedback on their ads from consumers. So imagine if you could dislike. Now, it would not this wouldn't be public to see, because that would be embarrassing for companies paying to be on a platform. But if they could actually see the metrics that with people deliberately disliking or rating the ads, then we would see advertisements improve. All right, I think that was a fantastic question. Thank you very much for that, and thank you for curating that one. All right, let's see what's up next here. Okay, Ina says, due to the political activity happening in our country, I'm interested to know if a company's political stance is relevant in regard to spending. Due to the political activity happening in our country, I'm interested to know if a company's political stance is relevant in regards to spending. Spending on what? All right, let me dig in a little bit deeper, see what the question was that was being asked here. 2020 has been a busy year with so much going on. Consumers are responding by spending with companies who align with their point of views. Do you consider a company's social political stance relevant when deciding to spend? Okay, all right, yeah, that makes that one more clear. Okay, anyway, and let's see, make sure. Okay, Matt was the one who asked this question. It shouldn't, but it does, okay? So how do let's see. I obviously have strongly held political beliefs. I used to be a campaign operative, campaign manager. I've been a candidate before. I've won an election and been an elected official before. I've worked in government. So yeah, I am political. I was never a partisan until the past few years, only because I was driven to be becoming a partisan. But when it comes to being a consumer, and so I'll speak only for myself, and then I guess I'll try to do it on a more general approach. But I think that some consumers are so politically motivated, so driven, and in our cancel culture, which is just so toxic and so poisonous, there are individuals who will boycott brands, products, individuals. They'll try to dox them, out them, harm them, just for holding a political belief, which to me, I'm getting off track here, but anyway, to me, that whole notion is just so dangerous. It's just so counterproductive to want to hurt somebody. And it's always amazing to me that people who are the first to say that they are tolerant and they want to preach tolerance and say that everybody should be heard, every vote should be counted, these are the same people who would happily boycott you, cancel you, have your life destroyed because you didn't believe in their position or support their candidate. So of course, those same people are going to march in lockstep to destroy a company or a brand or a product that is not aligned with their particular values. I've always said, and you can see this across other videos that I've recorded, and regardless of position. So I always try, so yeah, even though I do have my own beliefs and I have my own candidates and I have things that I support, I try to answer honestly and I try to do it fairly, okay? So regardless of the side or the viewpoint. But I have always been of the notion that a corporation has has two responsibilities. One responsibility is to the shareholders. So if you're a publicly traded corporation, your responsibility is to your shareholders. Your goal, your mission, your objectives, everything should go back to creating value for your shareholders. So whatever you do, you should be maximizing profits to make sure that if you pay out at a dividend, or if you're looking at share price, or some type of other benefit there, that your shareholders are number one. That honestly is the goal of a corporation. Some people aren't going to like to hear that. I've taught courses on corporate social responsibility, so it's not that I'm not understanding of that. It's not that I'm not sympathetic to it, but let's be real. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, the dollar. The second aspect to that should be to your employees, right? So these are the people that you've hired to work for you. You want to obviously make their lives better. You want to encourage, you want to develop them, you want to encourage them, you want to pay them a fair wage, so that they are creating value. So it's a cycle, right? So it's a cycle where if the corporation is supposed to make money to support the shareholders, then of course you want to take care of your employees, your suppliers, your vendors, etc. Because the better they're treated, the more likely it is that they will be more productive to then again go back to that bottom line. And then if you want to take it one step further in the cycle, now you're down to the consumer. And so if the corporation's objective or goal is to make quantum of money here, then if you piggyback that cycle downward, then what you're doing is that if the customer is happy, if the customer is spending money, then that fuels being able to buy from better suppliers, that fuels the ability to be able to pay your employees, then that fuels the ability to then go back to the shareholder, okay? So, now where does politics get into this? If there's other videos where I've talked about this, and I have a massive amount of shares in Apple, okay? So there, you can watch other videos and you can hear me talk about why I ended up investing in Apple at the time that the iPod was launched, and how that has fueled my own success, wealth, whatever you want to say, okay? So I have a love-hate relationship with Apple. I have my home is practically filled with just about every Apple product, with And if they don't make products, then I make products that, then I purchase products that are similar, so that whether that be an LG TV that looks like a MacBook, or whether that be a Samsung monitor that was designed with Thunderbolt 3 to be able to work with my MacBook and iPad, or whether it's smart technology that utilizes an app or HomeKit for Apple, so that I'm able to take advantage, okay, and that whole ecosystem. So I support the brand. And I also support the brand because by my own level of support, and it's also increasing the share value that I have, or my dividend, right? So I'm very concerned when Apple makes decisions in its supply chain, whether they're building in China or whether they're diversifying and having plants in India, Israel, Brazil, etc. So these things are important to me. The problems that I have as a investor and as a consumer is when the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, will give a speech and he will be critical of a US president, and he will make remarks related to visas and immigration and human rights and the environment, and be very critical of the country with which he lives in, and which is where his company headquarters is located in, which is America. But then at the same time, not criticize a country where most of Apple's manufacturing is located in, which is China. So he will say that there needs to be a fair wage in America for American workers, but yet at the same time he turns a blind eye to slave labor in China. He will complain about the fact that President Trump pulled America out of the Paris Climate Accords, but he doesn't say anything about the fact that China is the #1 polluter on the planet. And if we were involved in the Paris Treaty, American companies would be harmed, and yet China would still be putting out pollution. He talks about BLM and civil rights, but yet doesn't care about the fact that there are Muslims being tortured in re-education and slave labor camps in northern China. So to me, as a consumer and as an investor, if a company is going to get political, then they need to wake up to the fact that they need to be honest about why they're being political. Okay? Now, that's my own personal take or spin on that. Everybody else will have their own, so you asked the question, so it's hard for me to not answer it honestly. Now, to take me out of the equation and talk about it in general, yeah, I think so. We saw an instance where, and I think this was silly, but we saw an instance where the CEO of Goya praised Donald Trump for his economic policy, and then just because people that are never Trumpers, if you will, they then wanted to do a boycott of Goya's products, all because the CEO said that he admired the president's economic policies. It wasn't an endorsement of the president. It was an endorsement of that particular policy. And so to then boycott a product based on that, I mean, I don't see the logic in that. But anyway, to answer your question, then yeah, people are putting or spending dollars. People are talking online in support of or against based upon where a company falls on a political spectrum. And I know that no one's going to like this, but I'm going to say that, and Republicans have done this before, conservatives have done this before, but typically, even though they have beliefs, they typically aren't part of cancel or boycott culture. So when Bruce Springsteen comes out and endorses Joe Biden, then is that going to make me not listen to Bruce Springsteen anymore? No. But I know that on the other side of the aisle, that if a artist were to come out in favor of President Trump, then they would then boycott that particular artist. And I guess it's just a different mindset. I have always admired the Democrats and the Democratic Party for always, well, not always, but for anyway, for the pretty much maintaining their, what's the word I'm looking for? I've always admired their ability to be in lockstep with each other. So they will vote as a bloc. They will act as a bloc. They will not stray from a path to accomplish what it is that they would like to accomplish. Whereas on my side of the aisle, you can never trust a Republican to back you up. And examples of this would be Jeff Flake or Mitt Romney or Paul Ryan. There will always be, or Ben Sass, okay? There will always be Republicans who will step forward and stab you in the back. Yeah, it amazes me. Or, Susan Collins for not voting in the last SCOTUS confirmation process. Whereas the Democrats, it's highly unlikely that you'd be able to peel one or more of them away, because it's not because of ideology, it's because of they are unified to accomplish a task. And anyway, and I know this from having worked in the business as well, and having had one-on-one conversations with people where they've said to me that, well, yeah, I don't actually really agree with that, but that's what we're doing, so we all need to go along with that. Whereas on the Republican side, it's not about unity, it's about the ideology. Anyway, does that make sense? So anyway, I hope that answers your question, Matt. I try not to be partisan in that. Again, that's just my opinion. I'm not trying to sway hearts and minds. And actually, one of the reasons why I've delayed answering the questions here is to make sure that we're now post-election, even though the election hasn't yet been decided. The race has been called by the media, but it's not official. So anyway, I wanted to make sure that the election was actually over. The race was actually over. The vote had already been taken before I answered anything, because I didn't want to be accused of being partisan or trying to sway in any way. And you guys don't really care what my politics is, just like I don't care what yours is. I care about what I would hope that you would care about my opinion, just like I would care about your opinion. But I would never try to convert somebody because, let the ideas win. And so either I express an idea and you like it and you go with it, or you express an idea and I like it and I go with it, or you don't or I don't. No big deal. All right. Anyway, great question there, Matt. All right. So we've answered, so we've had, how many questions so far here? So thanks, Ian. So we had 1, 2, 3. So, wow, I've only answered 3 questions so far. All right. Anyway, let's take a look at this question here. Startups have limited resources, and I would like to get your take on this one. Okay, great. I would love to answer that then. While we know how important it is for brands to develop strong paid search campaigns and SEO content, if a brand can only afford to fund one, which channel should be supported, SEO or paid search? I get this question every time we do these, and I think that's great. So okay, so imagine you have a limited budget, and a lot of us do, especially startups. You don't have a lot of money to invest in marketing. And as an aside, I just want to say, remember that however much money you actually spend on development, you should spend twice that on your marketing. And some people are going to say, what, are you crazy? I used to say, or the rule of thumb used to be, that you should be willing to spend as much on, or I guess it depends upon the industry. Hollywood, for example, if they spend, let's say, $300 million on a film, then they're very likely to spend $300 million on the marketing for that film. If you are Apple and your R&D and to put the product out, let's say you spend, and I don't even know how much it costs to develop an iPhone these days, but let's say that you're developing an app or a website in my case. I've done a lot of the development in-house and I've used a lot of freelancers, but let's say that all in all it cost me about $15,000 to develop AppFlix, okay? Let's just say, hypothetically. So if it costs me that much money to do that, then I need to be willing to put in about $30,000 worth of advertising, paid advertising. Now, because I'm a marketer and because I have my own internal team, then we do social marketing, content marketing, storytelling for others, we have the ability to stop producing for our clients and I can shift the whole organization to promoting AppFlix, let's say. So I can on economies of scale cut that down a little bit. But yeah, I'm going to spend, I figure, that just for my app, okay? Or I don't even have an app, sorry. Just for my AppFlix website, which is a website, I will probably spend in the first year about $30,000 to gauge where we're at in the marketplace and to see what the uptake will be organically. And if the organic doesn't happen, then I'm going to have to spend more. So I would probably end up spending about, within 12 to 18 months, at least $45,000 on marketing and advertising. And this could also include influencers. This could also include paid content or paid sponsorships, if you will. So yeah, anyway, back to your question. I was on a tangent. I guess my mind is just on that because we're getting so close to launch that even though I've had a marketing plan in my head for a long time, also on paper, of course, but it's flexible. So yeah, so I've really been thinking about it lately. And so when it comes to SEO or paid search, I'm actually not going to do either. But and that's a whole other thing, right? I believe in SEM above SEO and paid search, especially for the things that I do. So of course I would think that way, right? But anyway, to answer your question, if you are a startup, Teresa, and you had just one, would I spend my money on search engine optimization, or would I spend my money on PPC probably, or paid search? I'm thinking about the fact of what our current environment is, and I'm thinking about how much noise is in the marketplace there, and so what could be contributing to that. This is a tough one, really, because it's really a toss-up. I tell you what I would do. I would test. I would go with SEO. And I'm going to say that I'd go with SEO because in your question, your hashtag, you've got SEO content, and as opposed to paid search. Yeah, I would go with, I know I'm kind of waffling here, and I know I've answered it differently in other videos, but thinking about our current situation today, I would not do a PPC campaign, pay-per-click. I would not spend money on paid search. I would invest money in making sure that, one, my website. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can hear me well with the background noise of the plane going overhead. But yeah, I would invest more money in search engine optimization and the fact of making sure that my website is fully responsive, making sure that it has the proper meta tags, making sure that, and this is one of the things that I just was talking with my developer about yesterday. I was looking at the strings that we have for some of our content pages, and or actually for all of the pages. So for example, our career page. For some reason, the code was auto-generating and calling it careers -3, and we weren't sure why. And the reason is because it was actually reading two of the images that I had uploaded for the careers page. So it saw image 1 is careers, it saw the second image is careers-2, and then it attributed the actual page itself to careers-3. And that would actually hurt the CEO. That would hurt the CEO. That would actually hurt the SEO because of the fact that it's just erroneous data. And more in particular, I would actually want the slug for the page to be AppFlix careers, because when somebody searches, it would be a bit more precise. Does that make any sense? So I would make sure that my entire website, it's actually called canonical SEO. So if you're not familiar with that, I encourage everybody watching right now to Google that term. Well, finish watching the video first, but then look up canonical SEO, and that will help you to understand what it is that I'm specifically talking about here. Then, so making sure that your site is responsive, its hierarchy is canonical, it's well designed, making sure that all of your strings are properly done, properly tagged. Then the next aspect to that is making sure that all of the content on all of the pages is properly tagged. It's the appropriate length, and that varies. There's been so many studies about the length of a post, whether or not that has an impact. To me, so the rule of thumb is that a longer post does, because it does help in the sense that the more time that you spent with the content, Google sees that and ranks it more favorably. That if somebody spends a longer time reading something, then it was actually more valuable. And so that will will increase the its rating by Google. So again, making sure the images that you use in the content, again, making sure that the image has the right tags in it too, that the file name is specific. There's so many images out there that just like have unknown or picture 005, or you want to make sure that you tag it properly. So for example, if I've got an icon on the Appflix career page, then the icon is going to say Appflix careers, right? So anyway, it's just important to make sure that you tag that right. The content that's there. So if you've got an article about SEO, then you want to make sure that the image on there basically says top 10 SEO tips, or it gives your website name. You want to make sure that the slug or the string for that page also is talking about, it has the actual article title in there, because that will all help when it comes to SEO. All right, so I'm just kind of rambling at the moment. I can tell that I haven't been on video for a long time because my answers are not succinct, and I'm actually getting tired standing here. Fitness level's not so great. I don't know about you, but I just haven't been working out to the same level that I used to, and it actually does impact the public speaking aspect of that. Okay, anyway, next, anyway, I think I've answered the question, Teresa. I would say that it's definitely SEO over paid search. And I hope that I gave a few reasons why that would be the case. But I think that, and I talk about this, it's called ZMOD or ZMOD. Also Google that. So Z or Z, MOT. And I think that if you take a look at that, you'll see why I believe that that SEO and SEO content, or SEM, search engine marketing, you'll find that most people are going to their search engine to look for something before just about anything else. So yeah, that's the way I would go. The next thing though that I would say, that if you've got money in your budget, I would do ads on Instagram and I would do ads on YouTube. And so yeah, that would be the level that I would go at. I would go with SEO, SEM content campaign and optimization. I would go with ads on Instagram, and then I go with ads on YouTube. But that's just me. Okay, all right, and that's a great question. Thank you very much for that. All right, this will be the final question that I'll answer for this particular video, and then, but not the final forever, because I'll be answering and recording more of these. But I'm actually looking up at the clock in the corner of the iPad over here, and I've got to get going. So, all right, this will be the final question that I'll answer here. And let's see, startups have limited resources, and I would like to get your take on this one. All right, and wait, 2 people like the same question. Well, good, I'm glad I answered it. Thanks. Let me go with the other one that you've asked, or want me to answer rather. I think a discussion around politics and how it affects global strategy is warranted, especially since we are in an election period. Well, thank goodness we are almost out of this election period, but let me see what it is that you had to ask. And the question here is, culture is vital in globalization. Start with strategy, not tactics. Understand the culture and identify your competitive edge, are three keys to success. However, I'm interested to know if politics impacts the global strategy. And it absolutely does. So there's a lot to unpack here. You said a lot. Culture is vital in globalization. Absolutely. You've got to make sure that you understand the culture before you market or target or launch or develop, even before you even create a product in a particular and decide to launch it and market it into a marketplace. You need to understand the culture. And I certainly live and breathe that every day, living in Asia. So being being me and in Asia and working all across the region, right? So I certainly understand localization and understanding the culture first. It's critical. So you want to start with strategy, not tactics. Okay, I totally agree with that. And so understand the culture, identify your edge, etc. But you're interested to know how politics plays, or if it does. I guess not how. So it definitely does. And look at, going back to the second, or I think question it was that I think that I answered about Apple. Obviously the reason why Tim Cook is not critical of China is that would impact Apple's business in China. Because if you think that politics is touchy in the US, it's real touchy in other countries. It's touchy to the point where in some cases it's illegal to criticize the government. And unfortunately, America is starting to move to this authoritarian model. We see this with lockdowns and with residents wanting to protest lockdowns or masks or vaccinations or school closings. The government cracks down really hard on them. Well, in foreign countries, and there is total authoritarianism in some cases, and you really need to weigh the way that your politics within your own country, and then of course the politics within other countries. Now, I'm not sure about what you're asking in terms of the company's politics in America as well as the company's politics in another country, or if you're actually asking about whether America's politics impacts a brand in another country. And I can certainly say that it does on several levels, in the sense that you take the Walt Disney Company. Disney, their international parks have been boycotted or have faced backlash in Paris, in Japan, in China, and in Hong Kong, when U.S. policy has come out in favor or against of tariffs or human rights or border disputes, different things of that nature. There's some backlash in those as a result of that. Disney has intentionally modified the design and their approach in some of those parks as well too, to cater to the culture of that local audience. To avoid that, there is no Main Street USA in Shanghai Disneyland, and that is not done by accident. So you actually, when you go to Shanghai Disneyland, it is the least Americanized version of any of the Disneys on the planet, and that's not by coincidence. You could say that it was done for cultural sensitivity, but no, it was really done for politics. So anyway, to answer your question, I would certainly say that so when you ask, you're interested to know if politics impacts global strategy, it certainly does. And on another level, if you are, again, just keeping with this particular thread, if you're Apple, you are highly sensitive to the fact that when the US government bans Huawei, that there would be backlash in China, and then there would be the potential of, one, consumers boycotting Apple products, but even at a greater level, China has threatened that they would boycott or kick Apple out of their country. And we've seen before, when Google used to have the motto of do no evil, now of course they help China develop the AI, which leads to the full-on let me be kind in this, but Dragonfly, Google has worked with the Chinese government to ensure that every citizen is spied on and every movement is tracked, whether it be on social or whether it be in the virtual or the physical world. So they went from being democratic and being kicked out of the country for saying that they weren't going to censor search results about Tiananmen Square, to then coming back to China and then helping them in a way that was even far more deadly, if you will, or egregious than by refusing to block search results. And of course, from a political standpoint, Ina, what Google lost is that they lost the advantage in the country in terms of search. And so of course now Baidu has taken that particular place, and a lot of U.S. companies have lost out due to not just U.S. politics in relation to China, but China making a decision that they were going to ban U.S. products from being in their marketplace so that their own brands could have a competitive advantage. And you see that with Didi, which is ride sharing, and that was after they kicked out Uber. They had Didi, which was their own version of that. They kicked out or have not permitted, WhatsApp or Twitter, and they have a version of that which is called WeChat, and so you've got Alibaba, which Baidu, etc., which has replaced pretty much Google and Amazon. So yeah, politics does play in all of that. It plays in logistics, it plays in manufacturing, it plays in sourcing of materials. So the supply chain can be greatly affected. We saw that here with the pandemic, right? The policies of the trade war saw to it that China secured resources and PPE for itself, and it denied it to America, even when it was American companies manufacturing, like 3M, those products in China. So yeah, very great and timely question that was there. All right, I think that will do it for this first episode. And when we come back, I'm not sure, maybe we'll go with, well, we could do one whole video here with your question. So maybe we'll return with that. I'm not sure. Every time you go into Twitter and you type this and you hit latest, the result will change. So I'll try to pick up where we left off in our next video. All right, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this session, and I'll see you in the next Marketing Kitchen TV Q&A live right here on Marketing Kitchen TV YouTube. All right, thank you so much. I'll see you again on some other social platform, if not on this particular one. Thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, there's always fresh content simmering on our storytelling stovetop. So whatever happens in this kitchen shouldn't stay in this Marketing Kitchen. I'm Ron Vining, your host, reminding you to invite your family and friends to the next episode of Marketing Kitchen TV.